Ah, India, that ancient cradle of civilization, which, for a fleeting moment, was the crown jewel of the British Empire. During its long and storied history, the Indian subcontinent has seen the rise and fall of countless states, and not just big empires. In fact, most of the time, India was split into a multitude of principalities and sultanates with a wide variety of religions, languages, and ethnicities. But, as we all know, eventually good old Britain arrived and started calling the shots. Now, the full story of how our dear motherland came to rule this vast territory is a spicy tale for another time. But the end result was this: the British Indian Empire, better known as the British Raj. As you can see, it includes not just the territory of modern India, but also that of present-day Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Myanmar. During the 19th and 20th centuries, it was this behemoth of a state that was collectively called India, rather than the smaller iteration that we know today. So why did this gargantuan India fracture into multiple states after gaining independence from Britain? And was there a way it could be saved? Well, India's partition happened along religious lines, and the roots of religious conflict in India run deep. Arguably to the earliest Muslim invasions, when Islam made its first inroads on the subcontinent. From the 13th century onwards, Islamic states ruled parts or all of India, which, of course, was inhabited by people of various faiths. Now, this wasn't always a problem. Islamic rulers in India tended to be more pluralistic and syncretic than their Arabic counterparts. Nevertheless, India would see terrible sectarian violence during the next few centuries, especially when Islam finally got around to conquering the Hindu South. Britain's involvement in these religious conflicts was minimal during its first century of Indian presence, when it was mostly confined to small, isolated outposts and manufactories through the British East India Company. Only towards the end of the 18th century did the company take over meaningful chunks of Indian territory, and that's when its policies began to change. In a classic example of divide and conquer, the company enacted policies that amplified the already existing social divisions within its newfound territories. For example, in the Muslim-dominated presidency of Bengal, the company disproportionately recruited upper-caste Hindus for its armies, ensuring that the military would never consider allying with the still powerful Muslim nobility. After conquering the Sultanate of Mysore in the south, the company did the same, sidelining the local Muslim elite with an army composed mostly of Hindus and the few Christian converts they could get their hands on. Over the next 50 years, the British East India Company would use these new armies in a flurry of wars, playing the local Indian principalities against each other while carving up the continent for itself. Yet the company's hegemony was far from assured, and the divisions they had sown ultimately proved futile in preventing rebellion. When the company introduced new rifle cartridges greased with animal fat, rumored to be from cows and pigs, the Hindu-Muslim divide was briefly put on hold as a widespread revolt erupted across northern India. Britain was able to suppress the rebellion at great cost, but this first Indian War of Independence would haunt British India for the next century. In its aftermath, Britain greatly tightened its control over India, abolishing the British East India Company in order to rule directly. While this brought some initial reprieve for Britain, its policies sometimes proved to be unproductive. Notably, when Britain conducted the first-ever census in India, that all-so-familiar British desire for neatness led them to group the population by religion and caste. This had the unintended consequence of providing a structure around which a collective Indian consciousness could emerge. Within a decade, the first Indian nationalist movement was founded, the Indian National Congress. While initially confined to urban elites, the Congress rapidly grew into a mass movement demanding greater representation and, dare I say it, independence. In the face of this threat, Britain returned to its tried-and-true approach of divide and conquer by appealing to India's Muslims. You see, while the Congress was supposedly representing all Indians, regardless of their religion, the Muslims feared they would always be sidelined as a minority. That's why they formed their own organization, the All India Muslim League, in 1906. Britain did try to appease the Congress by giving Indians their first taste of political representation in local elections in 1909. But, simultaneously, Britain gave India's Muslims separate electorates, in effect creating two separate power structures within the same society. This is a bad practice, not just in politics, but also in business. But that's where our friends over at Odoo can help. Their all-in-one management software helps you manage your whole business in a simple, intuitive, and efficient manner. There are more than 45 applications that you can use in Odoo to manage every aspect of your business. And here's the best part. Odoo is also great for creating and managing projects, giving you a bird's-eye view of project progress and deadlines. With Odoo Project, you can create a customized dashboard using stages that suit your method of work. You can then create tasks and assign them to the right person. Within each task, you can send emails, log notes, or even schedule activities like calls or meetings, helping you keep everything centralized in one place. The project app offers different views to suit your needs. The Kanban view lets you move tasks like sticky notes. The Gantt view displays tasks' dependencies. And the list view allows you to perform batch actions. When you join Odoo, your first application is completely free for life, whether you choose Odoo Project or something else. This includes unlimited hosting and support. And all you have to do is use the link in the description to take your business to the next level. But anyway, Britain tried to use the Muslim League as a counterweight against the Congress. And this worked initially, until the First World War came along. Nearly 1.5 million Indians fought for Britain during the war, undeniably contributing to its victory over the Central Powers. So significant was India's aid that it was made a founding member of the League of Nations. In the eyes of most Indians, they had earned their independence with blood. Now, even the Muslim League was calling for eventual independence. But how that independence would look was a matter few could agree on. The Congress, led by renowned SideQuest enjoyer Mahatma Gandhi, called for a strong unitary India for all. The Muslim League, on the other hand, was split. A moderate wing hoped to achieve significant Islamic autonomy within a federal India, while the hardliners were pushing for a fully separate Muslim homeland. Initially, the hardliners were on the back foot. Gandhi's powerful message of religious unity attracted many Muslims to the Congress, while his campaigns of civil disobedience extracted major concessions from the British. In 1935, Britain extended the franchise to almost 35 million Indian voters, resulting in India's first truly national elections 2 years later. This was a great victory for Indian nationalists, but was also a warning shot for the Muslims. The Congress won the election in 8 out of 11 provinces in British India. The Muslim League didn't win a single province, not even those with the largest Muslim populations. And all this while the Congress was promising to abolish the separate electorates of the Muslims. The fear of Hindu domination was rapidly becoming a reality. And so before long, the Muslim League had rallied to the hardliners. Chief among them was Muhammad Ali Jinnah, who dreamed of reorganizing India's Muslim-majority provinces into a single state, Land of the Pure, or Pakistan. Meanwhile, with the outbreak of World War II, Britain realized that its days in India were numbered. To secure Congress's cooperation, the British offered to elevate India into a dominion after the war, the same status then enjoyed by Canada and Australia. Yet only full independence could appease the Congress, and so Gandhi rejected the offer and embarked on his most intense campaign of non-compliance yet. So Winston Churchill did not like that. He ordered Gandhi and all major Congress leaders imprisoned for the duration of the war and shifted Britain's priorities towards collaborating with Jinnah and the Muslim League. For their part, the Muslims were much more cooperative with Britain's war effort and were thus rewarded with a promise from the British government that they'd be given the option to secede from a future independent India. This enraged the Congress leadership, but there was little it could do from prison. By the time the war was over and Gandhi and co. were released, the Muslim League had gained immense power, and the creation of Pakistan had become a goal for many Muslims across India. The Congress and Gandhi had precious little time to keep their grand India together. A further complication came from Britain, where Winston Churchill unexpectedly lost the general election of 1945. The newly elected Labour Party committed to granting independence to India as soon as possible, in line with their left-leaning politics. Elections were held in India the next year. They affirmed the stalemate, with the separatist Muslim League winning the Muslim vote and the Unionist Congress winning everyone else's. The Labour government made a desperate last-minute attempt to broker a federal Indian solution, which, miraculously, was accepted by the Muslim League. But it was ultimately rejected by the Congress, who gambled that they could keep India together without making such concessions to the Muslims. This is when things start getting ugly. Within days, Jinnah announced a national Direct Action Day, to be held on the 16th of August 1946, when Muslims across India were to begin a nationwide protest. While Jinnah didn't explicitly call for violence, communal riots broke out anyway that would continue into the next year. By this point, Britain had effectively lost control of the situation. In February 1947, the King appointed India's final Viceroy, Lord Mountbatten, and tasked him with overseeing India's independence no later than the 30th of June, 1948. He was instructed to preserve India's unity if possible, but to compromise if necessary to evacuate all of Britain's forces with minimal casualties. Mere days after his arrival in India, further violence erupted in Punjab. It was clear that independence could not wait another year. Lord Mountbatten tried to talk the Muslim League into staying in a federal India, but it was futile. Gandhi's desperate fasts for unity proved equally ineffective. Thus, in June 1947, the British government announced to the world that a mere 2 months from then, it would grant independence to a divided India and Pakistan. The borders of these countries were still very much up in the air at the time of the announcement, and this, unsurprisingly, threw the subcontinent into violent chaos. To add insult to injury, the task of drawing up the borders was assigned to a British lawyer who had never even been to India. In the 5 short weeks he was given, Sir Radcliffe produced this map, whereby the provinces of Punjab and Bengal would be split between India and Pakistan. Unfortunately, the map was only made public a few days after India and Pakistan had already become independent, leaving millions of Hindus and Muslims on the wrong side of the border overnight. The mass migrations that followed were the largest in human history, with 14 million people being displaced and nearly 1 million losing their lives in the ensuing chaos. Even with 55,000 soldiers in Punjab, Britain was unable to stop the violence. Only Gandhi's presence, committed to fasting for peace in Bengal, was able to calm things down, but just locally. In the years that followed, these initial borders would draw India and Pakistan to war, and would eventually fracture Pakistan in two. But that's a story for another time. In any case, thank you, my friends, for watching. I know this topic was a difficult one, but it is also very important, and I hope you enjoyed learning about it. Let us know if you'd like us to cover other such serious topics in the future in the comments below, and stay tuned for the next indivisibly pluralistic episode of SideQuest. Why did Gandhi refuse to fight? Because he believed in non-violence.